Hello, welcome to Design and Build with Mr. D. My name is David Yangato, a senior software engineer. I've been building web applications for over 15 years, and I've spent the last 80 years mentoring young engineers and how to build scalable systems. I'm passionate about sharing knowledge and open sourcing my experience, and that's why I'm starting this series. The intention of this series is to help young developers and maybe mid-level developers to get better at building solutions and bridging the gap between completing a beginner's tutorial and what really happened in the real world. How do you move beyond learning with beginner tutorials, completing a bootcamp, and actually thinking as a software engineer? Most cases, you understand how to complete simple tasks, but how about how you solve problems? This series aims to help you move beyond coding towards engineering. Who is this for? This is actually for junior to mid-level developers that are interested in growing in development, and it's not just for backend but also for front end. Though my main focus will be on backend, there will be a few tutorials on front end development, how you design front end system given a problem, and how you move beyond that design to building the solution. The focus is actually on technical solutions. The software development cycle is a set of 7 steps that starts with brainstorming and setting goals, requirement analysis and planning, design and architecture, coding and implementation, testing and QA, development, maintenance, and then feedback. In most cases, we are more focused on coding and implementation, forgetting the most important part, that is design. You have to plan, you have to understand what the problem is, and plan before you can start coding. How will the content be delivered? We are looking to embrace what I call the Pentagon cycle. The Pentagon cycle, it's a set of 5 steps that defines the feature development lifecycle. And you can see that we have the identify stage. The phase one is actually to identify what the problem is. Phase two is to understand the problem, then design and document your technical solution. Based on that design and documentation, you can actually build and iterate before testing and deploying. Let's get started with Pen Cycle 1. First, we need to identify the problem. And the problem presented to us, most often it comes from a client that you have had conversation with, or you have an idea of what you want to build. The problem statement is build a backend for a simple social media app that users can post random thoughts, comment on posts, like and follow other users. Next step is having been presented with a problem. Next step is for us to understand the problem. It's really important that you understand the problem that you're presented with. Most users will pick up the problem and start opening up their favorite IDE in their programming language and start coding. Unfortunately, that will lead you to more problems. So you need to first of all understand the problem. If the project is not initiated by you, you have stakeholders or a client, this is the time that you need to ask questions. You need to first of all break it down to simple pieces. The most important part is the information gathering. You need to understand the basic user stories around the problem that you need to solve. And in this case, I've been able to draft simple user stories based on the, the definition of the problem. So first we have a user should be able to post random thoughts. A user should be able to see posts by other users. A user should be able to comment on posts. A user should be able to see comments by other users. A user should be able to like a post. A user should be able to follow another user. This information simply defines what possible features you're going to have in this um, app. It's important that you have this conversation with the client, or if it's a personal project, like in this case, you define what are the requirements. In a team setting, you may have to do grooming at this part, sitting with product owner, defining what this app can do and what it should not be able to do. Now that we have been able to identify the problem, we have been able to understand the problem, what is required of us, then it's actually time to design. I've decided to break this down into four different design concepts. And one is domain design. When you are building a backend system, it's important that you look at the entities and come up with domain. So you will have domain design, and then the next one is looking at the system architecture. What do you think will be the system architecture? And you need to come up with that. Then after that, you can now talk about class interface design, API, request design. So this is just an overview of what we are going to cover in the design part of this series, which we are going to do later on. And once we are able to come up with these designs, then we can now use the designs to build the solution. In this series, we are not really particular about a programming language. For me, the programming language of choice is actually Node.js. The good part is actually that once the design is done, you can actually write this code in any programming language. You can choose to write it with Java, you can choose to write it with Ruby on Rails, Kotlin. So, and the design is actually the blueprint of what you want to implement. So, next up, let's do the actual design.